Well, hello everyone. I'm super excited to share something that I'm very passionate about and hopefully to change the way that you all think about marketing. Because when I tell people that I teach marketing with integrity, oftentimes it's thought of as an oxymoron because of many of the things that have been taught throughout the years in marketing. So we're going to change that today. We're going to talk about marketing with integrity and how you can craft your message with grace and ease, because once you have your plan and strategy in place, it's much easier. Nikki did a great introduction, and I'm also going to share a little more about me. I started Right On Creative, which is my business, in 2003. Have a background in advertising agencies, radio stations, and nonprofits, kind of ping pong between social services and marketing and advertising. When it got too tough in social services because the world is so strange and hard to see often, I would go back into marketing and advertising and work in a different arena. So in 2003, I decided I wanted to do things on my own, and I started the business. I've been doing this ever since. I'm multi-passionate, which means I have multiple focuses, and I work with a lot of multi-passionate people who have been told that they should only focus on one thing, and that's virtually impossible for people like us. So instead, I say focus on many things, but have a plan and strategy for all of it. I believe that business is personal. Anytime that someone does something that isn't cool and they say, oh, it's just business, that is not true. You're just a bad person. Business is very personal. I'm a lifelong learner, a dreamer, doer. I love books, the written word, music, nature, and golf. Marketing strategy and being of service come naturally to me. And I write for magazines, including Southern Oregon Magazine. The books that are up in the photo there are all books that my philosophies have been featured in. They've been featured in 8 #1 best-selling books, and I've written 1 book myself. My mission in the world, I teach, train, and transform on 2 core topics: marketing with integrity, which we're talking about today, and healing with love via spiritual sugar, which is my personal journey with healing cancer with love, no chemo or radiation. And that is highlighted in my book, Spiritual Sugar.
Which we have at the library.
Yes, there is a copy here at the Metaphysical Library for your reading enjoyment. Who I play with. Nikki mentioned a little bit about that, but I play with mission-driven entrepreneurs, business owners, and nonprofit organizations, corporate leaders, teams, emerging brands, established brands, multi-passionate coaches, consultants, authors, speakers, artists, and healers, even musicians and light workers. Doesn't matter if you've got a big mission and you want to get your message out there, I can help bridge the gap between marketing and spirituality, and very well. Also, people who are the stewards of important movements, not just a steward, but the steward. So pioneers, people who are coming up with really cool, innovative ideas that want to differentiate themselves from the masses. And then people who are ready to be the choice, not an option. So that's a big way to differentiate yourself. There are lots of options, but you really want to be the choice. And the way to do that is to position yourself very well. I've worked with large corporations. I've worked in pretty much every industry you can imagine. Brick and mortar, online businesses, from RVs to cannabis startups to you name it. And really, the only thing that my clients have in common are 2 things. They're very turned off by pain point marketing, and they've got a really big mission. They want to get out into the world, and they want to do things in a different way than anyone else is doing it. So our goal today, take the pain out of planning, the pain points out of marketing. We don't want any more of the pain point marketing. That's what's been taught for decades. It's antiquated, and it's just not as effective as it used to be. So I'm assuming many of you are businesses or in the role of leading a business. So as an entrepreneur or a multi-passionate creator in your role, you have 2 jobs: making your magic, whatever that might be, and marketing it. And the marketing part is where many people get stuck. So let's get your magic out into the world. Let's remove those blocks, let's blow through all of that pain point marketing, and let's start focusing on passion points. 2 things will never go out of style, no matter what changes, whether it is new platforms, whether it's the AI technology that's the big craze right now. Your message and your strategy. As long as your message is clear and your strategy is clear, you're going to be able to pivot and position yourself in any marketplace. So here's what's causing the big energetic disconnect, especially for people who are mission-driven when it comes to marketing. Traditional copywriting and marketing formulas are frankly just broken. They've been broken for a very, very long time. People are using false scarcity. They're using pain points. You'll hear people talk about pain points a lot. My pain point is pain points. The pain point of many of my clients are pain points. The manipulation, the fear and shame, and then the problem, agitate, and solve framework, which I'll talk a little bit about. Those are all things that really are not doing a really big service in the world any longer. Can they work? Certainly. If you use false scarcity, it can work, but it also damages your reputation. So we want things to be energetically aligned. So it's time for marketing with integrity. No more problem, agitate, and solve. No more pain points. So when I started on the marketing scene many decades ago, what was being taught for all copywriters, all marketers, is a framework or formula called the problem, agitate, and solve. So the premise of knowing what a problem is correct. We do want to know what the problem is so that we can solve it. But the framework that was being taught was that you figure out what that problem is and then you agitate it and you make people feel worse, so they get kind of thrown into this heightened emotional frenzy and they're in an emotionally vulnerable state, and then you can manipulate them into the sale. And then you solve it. Once they're all freaked out about whatever it might be, then you come in like the big marketing hero and you solve it. Now that approach can work, but what I've seen it do is I've seen it cause a lot of damage and destruction. Because when people are manipulated into making a choice, buyer's remorse comes into play, chargebacks come into play, and return rates come into play. And that's super not fun, period. It just isn't. So I pioneered the challenge, solution, and invitation framework, which I'm going to tell you how to apply to your business a little bit further into the presentation. But basically, I want you to flip your script and focus on passion points. We can paint a picture of possibility. We do not have to focus on doom and gloom. We do not have to poke at the pain points. We are people. People are human, and we can treat each other as such, and we can get better results. So your values equal value. One of the other energetic disconnects that I see in marketing is that we've lost touch with our values. And I often will lead my clients through exercises to identify their core values. Some people have done it, some haven't done it, and some haven't even looked at it for a while. And as we grow and evolve as people, our values may change. For a very long time, I wanted to be super independent. Now I'm really excited about being interdependent. You know, it's not easy being a lone wolf. So you want to focus on your values, infuse your values into your vision, and craft them into your mission. And be really clear about it. And it doesn't have to be long and drawn out. With my Healing with Love business for Spiritual Sugar, the mission is super simple. Healing with love. The vision is to provide people with information so that they can course correct their health before they have to face mortality or receive a cancer diagnosis like I did. I'm a cancer thriver and I'm very excited about that. So I keep it really short and simple. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out mission statement, but it does need to be based on your values and what matters most to you so that everything is energetically aligned for you. So if you haven't looked at your values for a while, think about that. And really, in a nutshell, values are what matters most to you. There's no right or wrong way to do it. And if it feels right, it's probably right. And if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. So one of the things that we'll want to do, too, as we're crafting our message is learn how to tell our story in a really fun and compelling way. And facts tell and stories sell. And it's interesting because studies show that men respond more to facts. Women are more interested in stories and emotional connections. And I also want to address the fact that we all, as humans, we possess both masculine and feminine energy. So this isn't an absolute, it's just a study. But it's something to keep in mind because we can connect with stories that really showcase our value proposition and the what's in it for me for the people that we're working with. An interesting study came out, several years ago from a company called The Next Web. And they surveyed a bunch of women about advertising. And 91% of the women polled said that they felt grossly misunderstood by advertising. And at that point, only 3% of the advertising directors at advertising agencies were women. So there was a big disconnect in communication styles between men and women. And that also impacts our stories, our message, and how we show up in the world. So that's something to think about. This is where it gets tricky. When telling your story, leave your ego behind. We all have a lot of great things to share. We want people to know how we can help them. We want to let them know some of our accomplishments, things like that. But we want to make sure that we're remaining humble and that we are putting our clients, our prospects, our soulmate clients in the forefront of that. They're going to want to know what's in it for them and how your product or service or whatever it might be is going to help them. Some people take it overboard and they just talk a lot about themselves, all their accolades and all that, and that's cool. I mean, I'm proud of a lot of things that I've done, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to solve your problem. So you've got to be able to articulate that value proposition in a way where they're like, yeah, okay, that's awesome. And yeah, they've done some cool things too, but they can really help me solve my problem. They can address my challenges. They can get this done for me. So make sure that you're highlighting that value proposition and, again, positioning that value to your prospects instead of giving yourself mad props. Just keep it humble, keep it balanced. It's a fine balance. It's not always easy. Sometimes you can get caught up in things, but that's going to make a big difference too. It's all about keeping it real. No smoke and mirrors, just keeping it real. You're also going to want to identify your ideal soulmate clients and customers. And this is something that gets kind of interesting because sometimes, especially when businesses are just starting out, you start to try to be all things to everyone, which means you become nothing to no one because your message gets watered down, people are not connecting with you, and you're just doing yourself a disservice. So who do you really want to serve? Who is it that you want to play with? What lights your soul on fire when you're doing your business? And how are you going to attract them with your story, with your message, with your value proposition? So all of these pieces layer together so that you can get results. And then start thinking about what are their challenges and what do they deeply desire and how is what you're doing in this world addressing those? How is it making the world a better place? How is it truly being of service? You also want to map out your magic and create your goals, right? So what often happens is people will start a business, and especially if we're multi-passionate, we'll add a bunch of different offers and services. We have to have a plan and strategy for each of those. So under the Right On Creative brand, I do multiple things. I do Manyon marketing web makeovers, so there's a whole marketing strategy for that. I do high-level consulting for corporations that are doing multi-millions. That's not anything you even see on my website. That's something that we have a conversation about behind the scenes, and it's all referral-based. So you have to have a plan and strategy for each thing that you're doing, and set your revenue goals, because if you do not know where you're going, there's no way you're going to get there. And so many of my multi-passionate people who I love, and I've been here myself, will create all these new great offerings because they're fun and it's fun to create, but those goals haven't been set, the plan hasn't been set, and there isn't marketing in place to actually make it happen. So you have your ideas, you create your plan, you take some action. And you decide where you want to be seen and heard. So you've got media, you've got internet, you've got all kinds of places. Those are some of the places where I've been seen, books, stages, different things like that. But you also want to differentiate between marketing and advertising. And this is where things get a little tricky for many. Marketing is pretty much everything that you're doing to get the word out about your business that is not necessarily paid placement. Whereas advertising is paid placement. So a newspaper ad, a magazine ad, a Facebook ad, radio, TV, those are all paid placements. So when people hear advertisements, they know that you've paid for that, and oftentimes they'll tune it out. So marketing is far more organic. A person can do a paid Facebook ad. For example, the Metaphysical Library does a really good job of boosting the Facebook ads and posts for these events. That's great advertising. I shared it, I didn't pay for it. That was actually marketing. I just shared the post and I'm getting a ton of play from it. And by the way, have already received calls for business prior to even doing this talk, which I was going to tell you about, Nikki, so it's super exciting. So differentiating between what is marketing and what is advertising and putting your plan together for all of that is super important. And carving out a budget for all of it, because some marketing you will have to pay for. For example, if you do business cards, that is marketing. Sort of advertising, but more marketing because it's not actually paid placement on a billboard or something like that. So there are a lot of subtle nuances for all of this. And it's really important to think about where you want to be seen and heard, and more importantly, where are those people that you want to play with showing up? And how can you show up and meet them where they are in a more natural way than has probably been demonstrated by many people who teach marketing and advertising in the past. So your copy, which is your message, is queen, and your strategy, your plan, is king. Now, there is an age-old marketing, advertising, and copywriting adage that says that your copy is king, and I don't believe that at all, because here's the thing. Your copy is the feminine energy that nurtures and builds. It's your message. It's how you're building those connections. And you can have the very best copy in the world and a really bad strategy, and nobody's seeing it, and so what difference is it going to make? And that's why I say that strategy is king. It's the masculine energy that drives the plan, that gets the eyes on your website or in the door of your business or wherever it is that you want people to show up to help you do what you want to do. You can also have a really great strategy and really bad messaging, and it's not going to work as well as you would like it to. So it's a fine balance, and there's many different nuances here that layer upon one another so that you can get the results that you deserve, and more importantly, that your clients deserve, because if they're not happy, they're not coming back. I talked a little bit about the importance of energetics in marketing messages, but I want to talk a little bit more about that. So it's really just like a relationship. Your copy and your strategy have to play together, and they have to play together really nicely, because if they don't, it will create misalignment. And if we don't have energetic alignment, it's a struggle in any relationship. So when you view your marketing as more of a relationship and a being of service, as opposed to something that you have to do that you're reluctant about doing, and a lot of times that's what I find from many of the people that I've worked with. They've been taught the pain point marketing. They're stuck energetically because it doesn't feel good to them, and quite frankly, there's many reasons why, and that's very substantiated. So when they realize they can kind of flip the script and focus on passion points, and they can start working with these energies in a more cohesive way, the results are far better. Words have energy. I talked about pain points a little bit. Using the term pain points has become second nature to so many of the big gurus out there. They'll immediately start a conversation and say, "What's your pain point?" They've lost me right there. They've lost most of my clients right there. It's not a great way to start a conversation, and it just blows my mind that people continue to do that. We do want to highlight the challenges and the struggles of your prime prospects a little bit, but we don't want to create that much negative energy. So we want to meet them with empathy and understanding, as opposed to, "Hey, what's your pain point? And that's probably keeping you up at night, isn't it? What can we do about that? Gee, it looks like you might need to lose some weight." These kinds of approaches, which a lot of people do, and it's awful. It's just terrible. I'm like, let's not do it. So we've been programmed, basically brainwashed to believe that that's the way to do it, because that's what everybody's been teaching. And years ago, when I first started doing things differently, I remember sitting in the back of a room being taught all of these weird problem, agitate, and solve frameworks, and thinking to myself, wow, this just isn't right. But I was a newbie. So I was like, who am I to say anything about this? I mean, these guys must know what they're doing. It must be working. It was working, but that buyer's remorse was happening. And the chargebacks were happening, and the return rates were happening, and the talk in the community was happening, and it wasn't necessarily being shared with the people who were using these techniques. People were just not coming back, but telling other people. And if you're dissatisfied, you're probably going to tell more people than when you're satisfied. It just is human nature, unfortunately. I'd like to flip that script too, but I can only do so much. So start thinking about passion points. Focus on possibility and results, not lack. I mean, we have so much going on in the world. We don't need to poke at people's pain. People feel bad enough as it is. We're all intelligent human beings. We know what we need. And when someone shows up with empathy and understanding and shares that, it's going to go a lot farther. Your message aka your copy, has more power than you might realize. I often say that copy, your message, is the DNA of your marketing, advertising, and promotional materials. So without your words, what do you have? Strip away all your words. Maybe you can have a video, but if there's no words or no audio with it, what's going to happen? Your message isn't going to get out there. So that's why I always say, let's dial in our core message first and foremost. Let's get that out there in a way that really makes sense so that we're magnetizing people to us. We're attracting our ideal clients instead of chasing not so ideal clients. And we're speaking to the passion points that amplify the energy instead of the pain points that probably draw some people in some massive pain and turmoil that you might not want to actually play with when you think about it. There may be some other services that would serve them better prior to coming to you, perhaps, right? So your word's your honor. That's something else that I say all the time, right? So say what you're going to do what you say you're going to do. It's that simple. And it carries over into your marketing and advertising, and it goes back to business being personal. It's all very personal. So when I first rolled out the challenge, solution, and invitation framework, I was calling it the new copywriting and marketing framework for success, but it's not that new anymore. I mean, I've been talking about it for decades, but it's still starting to catch on, so I guess it's new to some. But I'm going to walk you through the challenge, solution, and invitation framework so that you can apply that to your marketing messages and that you can start crafting your marketing messages with grace and ease. So the challenge is pretty simple. You need to know it. What's happening with the people that you want to do business with? Meet them where they are with empathy and understanding. That's it. We're humans. That's how we're supposed to interact. It's pretty simple. So what's the problem that you solve? Certainly we want to know what that is. But what are the challenges and the deepest desires of your ideal soulmate clients? What is it that they want? Is it transformation? Is it something tangible? You know, what exactly is that? You've got to know what that is. And how can you eliminate the challenge and help them achieve their goals? What is it that they want? How can you help them achieve that? And again, it's not necessary to poke at, at pain points, but it says pain points. I missed it, see? It happens. So don't focus on those pain points. Don't poke at them because it just amplifies that negative energy. Instead, we can meet people where they are, and then we can help elevate them by the work that we do in the world. The solution, you have to be it. You have to own it. You have to embody it. Offer proof that you can deliver what you promise with your value proposition. So how are you actually getting results for your clients, and how can you showcase those in a way that addresses what they desire, what they aspire to, and that paints a picture of possibility? So a couple examples of value proposition. When you understand the challenge and you roll into the solution, you want to make sure that you're incorporating case studies, your stories, results, things that are going to show real tangible information. So you're all here because the challenge is you're curious, so you want to learn more about marketing with integrity, maybe take the pain out of planning, the pain points out of marketing. The solution is I'm sharing this information with you. I'm coming to you with decades of experience. The information that I share just with this framework removes energetic blocks that have kept people stuck for decades from being able to actually share their magic because they felt they were doing something wrong if they weren't doing pain point marketing. I have a story of a woman who simply read an article that I had written about this framework. She had hired a coach and spent tens of thousands of dollars working with this coach over the period of a year. He was supposed to help her close more sales at her live events, and it wasn't working because it was pain point marketing. She read the article, she simply shifted the energy, started focusing on pain points, and had more results in 2 events by just using this framework than she had in that year of working with the coach. Now, you might say, well, that's cool, but she didn't even spend any money with you, Lisa, so is that really that exciting? For me, it is, because it's the transformation. And it shows, too, that you can also share transformational results if you're in the transformation business. Because oftentimes when we are sharing things in, say, a coaching capacity that is a little bit esoteric, that people, maybe it's about energy healing or something like that, you have to be able to have some kind of transformation that you can share in that context. So you're going to want to craft your message to magnetize your ideal soulmate clients and customers by really focusing on those passion points. And when you share those case studies, the statistics, the results, whatever it might be, all of that is brought together to create your value proposition. And you can then paint a picture of possibility for people with that thought. So you don't have to poke at pain points. You can look at amplifying passion points, and right there, that already changes the trajectory of how you can market. There are other examples, but what I'm going to do for you in this context is, since you're all here to learn about marketing with integrity, part of the value proposition that I am delivering to you today is not only this presentation, but I'm going to give each of you the opportunity to access a tool that will walk you through a messaging exercise that will help you flip the script and focus on your passion points. And the invitation is simple. You've got to do it. So you can acknowledge the challenge and you can map out your value proposition all that you want, but if you don't share with people what they need to do to take the next step, then you're simply going to be, well, they're not going to take action. I'm just going to put it that way. It's very simple. You're going to be in a place where you've got part of your message dialed in, but you're not making the ask. Oftentimes it is called the call to action. So lead people to the next step to do business with you or to learn more about you, whatever it is that you want your people to do, whatever your goal is. And don't ever assume that your prime prospects will know what to do. I see this happening all the time on websites. People will build a website, they'll have it up and running, it'll look great, and there's no invitation to do anything next. It especially happens on about pages. I can be reading a website and learn all about a person on their about page and think, oh my God, this is fantastic. I'd like to work with this person, and then it just ends. You're online, if it just ends and it doesn't say book an appointment or sign up for an email list or do something, then they're going to do nothing and they're going to disappear. So make it very easy for people to get what they need from you and extend that invitation, ask. That's kind of uncomfortable for many people, so I want to talk a little bit about that. Many people will equate marketing, advertising, and sales with just an icky feeling, honestly. It's uncomfortable for many. It takes a while to really own your magic and to be really confident in sharing and asking. If you do not ask, if you do not share your magic, if you do not let people know how you can serve them, then you're doing a huge disservice to humanity. And sales, marketing, copywriting, advertising, all of it isn't even really about sales. It's about being of service. And when you get that down and you're being of true service, the sales begin to come naturally. But you still have to ask for them. And that means not only having your call to action in place, but having your plan and strategy in place so that the people that come to your website or your brochure or see the billboard or listen to the radio ad or whatever it is that you're doing know what to do next. And they know that you're going to be there for them. And even more importantly, you have to deliver on what you promise. And that's another thing. There's a lot of bait and switch things going on out there in the world that are very disheartening, right? We want people to do what they say they're going to do, and not everybody does. And so that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this and, letting people know that it can really truly be done with grace and ease. There are multiple layers and steps that you have to have in place. But when you kind of flip that script and you start thinking about, wow, what if I just paint a picture of possibility and let people know what life could be like once they experience my product or service, wouldn't that feel better? And wouldn't that be a greater service to the world? I personally think so. So I have an invitation to you, of course. You can go to themessengerquiz.com You can also access this on the rightoncreative.com website. It's at the very top of the site, but there's a specific landing page for the messengerquiz.com. You will learn what your messenger type is if you choose to trust me with your email address, and I promise I'll only send you good stuff. And so you'll learn your messenger type. You will learn, you'll also have access immediately to a messaging exercise that walks you through the challenge, solution, and invitation framework so that you can apply it to your business regardless of what your business is. There are typically 3 types of messengers that I have identified over the past 20 years working with clients, probably thousands of them now. There is the launcher, which is often my multi-passionate person who has a bazillion projects going on and has tried to launch a bunch of them, thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall, but hasn't really gotten one to stick yet. And I always recommend to them that they go kind of back to foundations. Take a look at those values. Look at what you really want to achieve. Get back to basics. And so when you do take the messenger quiz, you'll also get some next steps for your messenger type. Things you can do on your own. And also, of course, there will be an invitation if there's something, to work with me if you would like to. That's totally up to you. No pressure. I love giving this stuff out because I like to see people applying it, and I like to see how it's changing the trajectory of the world. The second type that I see is the leader, and this is the person who's been doing their craft for quite some time. And they're really, really good at it, and they're really ready to amp that up. They're ready to be the choice, not an option, right? They want to differentiate themselves from the rest of the crowd. They want to take it up a notch, They really want to be seen and heard in a different way and respected for what they've been doing for a very long time, and it just takes some small shifts. And so I have suggestions for that as well. And the final is the legacy creator, and this is one of my favorites. This is the person who's ready to make some really big impact that will live beyond them, but also get it going while we're still here on the planet, right? So it could be writing a book, it could be creating an online course, it could be starting a new business. It could be 1,000,001 different things. It's totally up to you. I don't know what it might be. So we've got the launcher, the leader, and the legacy creator. And of course, you'll receive information, depending on what your messenger type is, on some next steps that you can take. And the thing about all of these types is we all possess characteristics and traits of each of them. So I've had people go back and take the quiz again and say, oh, things have changed a little bit for me over the past even just couple of weeks. And I'm really excited because I want to take a look at some of these exercises that you're now giving me for the legacy creators. So those are just some things to take a look at. I'm going to talk a little bit about some results to give you some examples of how I package value propositions so that you might get ideas for how you can do it for your own business. So Therese Skelly is a friend and a business colleague. She's super cool lady, very tapped in, super intuitive. And she did a quick start strategy session with me. She was challenging language. She's super spiritually tapped in, and she was using a lot of terms like next level and things that were more corporate-y that were not really going to get her people. So she said, Lisa, help. I'm like, let's do it. So in the first 12 minutes, I just tapped into her energy. We started talking about it. I helped her rename 3 of her programs. I can't remember what they were off the top of my head now because I get kind of in the zone and sort of channel things. And then she was using a bunch of different titles. She was a business mentor and an intuitive and all these cool things. And I said, no, Therese, you're a leader and you're getting ready to step in to being a legacy creator, and you are the intuitive business mentor. And she stopped in her tracks and she said, I just got full body chills. And that's going to take me a little bit to own. And I said, I know it's stretchy, but this is how you become the choice, not the option. You position yourself that way. So she's been doing that and doing it really well. And what she says here is she empowered me to own my message in the most powerful way. And that's what she's meaning about the intuitive business mentor, because she wouldn't have got there on her own. She needed a little bit of help to get there. And she was too close and still too stuck into all of the teachings that she had received over the years on pain point marketing. And she was using some of the language that I recommend she didn't use, that I know will not, there's other language that's softer, that's juicier, that's more exciting, that's going to magnetize her people. So that was fun. Relationship coaches. This couple, Orna and Matthew, live in Los Angeles. They're amazing relationship coaches. They came to me because they wanted help with reviewing their website. I did a website review and I uncovered a revenue stream for them that they had a blind spot to. So they were working with a lot of really powerful women that had really big budgets in the LA area. And they were using a lot of online programs. And I said, wait a minute, I'm a single female. I don't want an online program. If I'm going to invest in you, I want to be standing in front of you. I want my heart in your hands. I want to know I can trust you. And so I said, you need to start with a VIP day and lead them in there and then supplement it with all of these great teachings that you have, because they had all of those in place already. And they fought me tooth and nail. And finally they did it. And to this day, they're excited because the first conversation they had after we kind of flipped that script and repackaged everything on their website with a high-end client, she booked them and they more than tripled their investment with me. I mean, they charge way more than I charge. So it was really cool to see. So these are just different ways, you know. They came to me because they wanted help with messaging, but they really needed some help with packaging, which is why I'm always saying that the messaging and the strategy go hand in hand. You have to get them to play together. Jennifer Huff has a business called The Wide Awakening, and she teaches quantum physics, among other things. She is just a really incredibly great woman. And she came to me because she was really turned off by all the pain point marketing, and she was trying to get her team dialed in on her top 3 goals. And she hired me on a higher level consulting agreement. We did several of my packages kind of all rolled into one and customized that, including a content strategy plan where we mapped out, you know, what are your top 3 goals? How are you going to get there? How are you going to be seen and heard? How are you going to show up? And also, if you want to be working less and making more money, how are we going to do that? One of the revenue streams that I repackaged for her, that when she implements it, it will take her business over $1 million. And it was just from doing 4 events a year. Small, low-key events, not a bunch of high cost, not a bunch of anything, and really just meeting people where they are and teaching her. It's both, she teaches some spirituality, but it's backed by science, so she blends them together, which is why she's called the scientuality expert, which is a term she made up. I didn't make that one up, but I told her she needs to use it because it's a pattern interrupt. And that's something else when it comes to positioning yourself and creating your messages. If you can do a pattern interrupt, something that is disruptive but in a good way, then it's memorable and people think about it, they remember it, and then they want to do business with you. So those are just a few of the results to kind of share how you can use the framework. Quick recap, focus on passion points, not pain points. That is, you know, I'll say it probably a million times. I won't stop saying it until people stop doing the pain point stuff. You know, it's like, stop. And really paint that picture of possibility. What is life going to look like once you have worked your magic with your people? How's their life going to be better? You know, are they going to make more money? Are they going to be more peaceful? Are they going to be energetically aligned? I don't know, because I don't know what all of your businesses are. But you know. And when you drop down and you slow down and you think about it, then you're able to really tap in and connect with exactly who you're meant to serve. And again, the value proposition. I'll say that a billion times too. Be really clear about that. I think that the value proposition is one of the most important things that you can do, because you have to own your magic, you have to get really clear on your results, and you have to be able to articulate it. I also am not a fan of the elevator pitch. I would say using the challenge, solution, and invitation framework to create your value proposition will eliminate you ever having to create some weird, stiff, memorized thing that doesn't feel like it's coming from your heart, which is what most elevator pitches sound like. So tap into your heart, feel it, and share it. And have a fresh message and strategy for every revenue stream with a clear invitation. And so if we have multiple services and we just have them all lumped on one page without there, like on your website, for instance, without there being a very specific strategy, value proposition, and information for each of those, people will get confused and lost. So be clear about that. And sometimes it means assessing everything you're doing and letting some things go. That's a little difficult for me because I'm a creator. I probably have far too many revenue streams because I can't energize all of them at any one time. And so I have to go back and look at my own marketing as well. You know, it's an ongoing process. I'm working all of this with each of you because we learn and grow as we go. So you might want to eliminate some of the things that you offer and amplify some of the things that need more energy that could bring you more joy and could bring you more revenue and could be of more service. Just some different things to think about. There's some other resources to support you. If you don't want to take the messenger quiz and you don't want to give me your email address, you don't have to. Yay! You can go to the Right on Creative blog. I've been blogging for a very long time. There's lots of cool blog posts there that are super informative, and I think they're pretty good. I have a podcast called Your Message Matters. I infrequently share new episodes, but it's there, and they're timeless. That's another one of my secrets, make things evergreen, so that there aren't time limits on podcasts and different things like that. So as much as you can, be really clear about that. And then I have a section on the website. You can either go to rightoncreative.com/ask-Lisa, or you can just go straight to the Right on Creative website and click on the Ask Lisa button at the top. And if you have a question, send me an email and ask me, and I will respond to you personally. I will sometimes turn those into blog posts or podcasts if they're really good. For example, someone recently sent me an Ask Lisa about AI and wanted to know if they should use AI to write their content, to which I said, no, you should not. You can use it for inspiration, but I have deep concerns about intellectual property, plagiarism, and more. And that's a really good post, too. And the comments on the post are fascinating. It's such a hot topic right now. I don't know about any of that, really. I'm dipping my toe in cautiously because I see good things and I see bad things. So there's that. And then just a closing reminder, take the messenger quiz if you want to. You'll discover your messenger type, you'll get your exercises, and you'll receive some information from me. And if not, just go right back to the free resources and check them out. There's never any pressure. I believe in quality over quantity always, and I often teach about spam and the Canned Spam Act when it comes to emails, so never do I add you to any email list without your permission. I'm likely going to start teaching some local workshops, possibly even here, we will see. Nikki and I are going to have some conversations. And so if you are interested in any of that, there will be there's a sign-up sheet over there, and you can give me your email. I will personally email you, but not add you to a list if I'm going to do any upcoming or when I'm going to do some upcoming events. So you can do that. And then I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions. If you have specific questions for your individual business, or you want some help with messaging or anything, we can do whatever you would like.
Well, I'm curious to know about, I can see you have a lot of background in perhaps other places, and how is it working in Ashland, a community like this, or in Jackson County, because there's different trends of people in different areas, and does it make a difference?
So yes and no. I'm trying to read between the lines with what you're asking. But the majority of my clients are out of town. However, I have worked with several local clients. One of my clients is a local musician. Her name is Natasha Neese. She has a band called Living, Loving, Led. And she actually came to me to map out another business. It was a lifestyle business that she was very excited about. We mapped all that out, and she's very good at that as well. But I could tell that her true passion was singing. And so when we got done, I just said to her, you're going to do really well with this if that's what you want to do. And you really light up when you talk about your singing. And she chose to do that, and she's doing soundtracks for LA producers, and she's got all kinds of really cool things going on. So she had hired me for a quick start strategy and did that. I've done some work with Suzanne, who's right here in the audience, on some of her messaging. She does incredibly powerful work for women in the world. It's just so needed. Her book is amazing, and she's coming to speak. 2 weeks? In 2 weeks.
Could I throw in something very quickly?
Please.
So I just have to say that Lisa helped me when I was creating an online masterclass, and it was the year before the pandemic, and so by the time I really had it almost finished, the pandemic hit, things changed for me in certain ways. Anyway, it didn't happen, but I'm now every time I go back, I'm reusing that material and I'm still doing it, but every single time I dive into it and start reading through the whole PowerPoint presentation, I love it. I love it. And because she changed the wording exactly as she was saying, switched things around, and it was kind of crazy. It was a crazy experience in the sense that she would, I wrote out this whole thing. I don't like writing copy because I'm too close to the material I'm actually teaching and speaking about and writing about. And the marketing part, I used to be good with marketing with my business a long time ago, but this was different, and I couldn't get there. And so I'm writing out this whole thing, and she just came in and all she goes like, "Oh, we just need to turn this around," and I'm going, "What?" Like, that's so crazy great, it's so beautiful, and it flows so nicely, and it's nice. It's not, it's not icky or intimidating or, just that marketing like she's talking about. So that we need to get rid of the pain point thing. So this is the pleasure points, and it's just lovely. And so every time I get into it, I get really excited about my work again.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So
Thank
I just wanted
you.
to pass that on.
I appreciate you sharing that. So I also have worked with the local nonprofit, Ride My Road. Lauren Trantham was here and she presented. So I do work with local businesses, and I also work with some local businesses with my spiritual sugar work with my book. The book is called Spiritual Sugar, The Divine Ingredients to Heal Yourself with Love. And so it is more on the spiritual, energetically aligned spectrum, we will say. And I was hired by United Way to come in and do an employee wellness program for their employees, and we created a Commit to Me plan for the next 30 days. So they were focusing on an area of wellness that I outlined in the 7 Spiritual Sugar Principles. So I'm now working with corporate wellness teams on some of the more kind of, as some people would say, woo-woo esoteric things. So it's well received, but in some cases, there's certainly some resistance. However, I have, prior to the pandemic and everything happening, I have taught for the Small Business Development Center. I've taught for the Small Business Development in Medford, also up in Shasta. I've taught in Idaho. So, it's pretty well received. I just haven't actually focused on local business a whole lot. Most of the business, this is going to sound a little bit ironic, but because I've dialed my message in so well, I've got my value proposition dialed in so well, most of my business comes from word of mouth. I don't do any paid advertising. All of it is marketing and organic. So that's how things have worked for me throughout the years. Very great question. Thank you.
One other thing I'll add is with the AI stuff, I've played around quite a bit with that over the last couple of years. And and when you're in there, a big part of the artificial intelligence, business-wise, is about writing copy or that kind of thing. And they've got, you just jump to the thing that says PAS for problem, agitate, solve. I mean, it's right there. You click on that and it'll give you an outline for that model.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I see it, like the first time I saw it, I thought, where's Lisa here, like changing this whole AI?
Well, it's so funny. So the thing to know about ChatGPT specifically is that it's an aggregate of information that was fed to the system, and I think it was cut off at 2021. So anything newer than that isn't going to be in there. I played with it a little bit just because I wanted to see what it had to say. So I asked it to tell me about me because I wanted to know what was in there, and it said I focused on pain point marketing. It came up with 6 books that I supposedly have written, which I have not even heard of, and I don't even know that they exist. And I wrote about this in the blog post that I wrote, and as well as a Your Message Matters podcast. I sat in on a presentation at ScienceWorks from a linguistic professional. He's not a professor anymore, but he did that. And he gave us a demonstration, and it made up a complete species of lizard that doesn't even exist. He asked it to write an essay and then to do the citations. All of the citations were false, non-existent websites, 404 errors, or just totally made up information. So there is an element of ChatGPT that they call hallucinating, which they don't think is going to go away anytime soon because it hasn't been perfected. So basically, it will just make up stuff if it feels like it. And then, so if you're not fact-checking, and if people are actually using this to write their content, which just terrifies me, you don't even know if it's going to be true or real or the facts are there. The other thing is people are feeding their information into the aggregate, and I have concerns about intellectual property there. You know, what are they doing with it? How are they protecting copyright, trademark, all of that? I don't know. I don't have the answers, but that's the part of it that I'm not comfortable with at all. It seems a little sketchy to me, but you know, who am I?
Well, I will say that what I learned, and you know, I don't know if this will change down the road as it all gets better or not, but definitely what I discovered is that, and I had taken a class in it kind of at the beginning of this stuff, and one of the things was just when you're blogging, it's really good. Google loves for you to have a frequently asked questions section, and so you can go to the frequently asked question, you know, portal there on AI. I was on Jasper, which is a super popular one, and you pop a question in and it gives you like 3 answers, you know, 3 paragraphs, and you can choose or get other ones. And most of the time they were just flat out wrong, like you were talking about, just because I knew the answers already, you know, but I just wanted it quick and, you know, see what it would do, and so I could just copy and paste and stick it in there. And I had to rewrite everything because I knew it was just flat out wrong. And when you're talking, if you end up talking about health stuff, which was not what I was doing at the time, but if you're talking about health stuff, so much of what you're looking up now online, if it's not the Mayo Clinic or something, if it's just a name that says healthpeople.com or something, it's probably wrong information.
Well, this is the scary part for me is there's already a lot of misinformation out there, and you kind of have to be very discerning when you're online. And now it's going to be even worse with all of this out there. Right. There have been many instances where now they're duplicating voices and scamming elderly people, calling and saying it's their grandkid or their kid that needs money, and they're sucking money out of people's accounts. One really extreme situation that I read about was a gentleman that was super depressed that somehow started chatting with AI, and it suggested that he take his life, and he did. Now, can you blame it on that? No, probably depression had a lot to do with it, but think about the state that we're all in after the past 3 years of this collective PTSD that isn't going away anytime soon, and that many of us don't even realize we're still experiencing because, you know, we're just doing the best we can, rolling into life and wondering what's next. So there's a lot of different things. There was one interesting comment on the blog post that I did. A woman said she was at a gathering and she was speaking to an author who had had contracts with a specific publishing house for a series of books, had submitted the manuscript, had a deal pending with them, and apparently the publisher took it, rolled it through AI, changed it enough so that it was different enough, and published the AI version and cut off their contract. So again, there's good people, there's bad people, and there are people that are going to use it for good, and there's people that are not going to use it for good, and that just, it's worrisome to me. You know, it just adds another layer of pain points to the whole thing, which none of us need.
One thing I will say, one of the positives is if you're writing a blog and it's something sort of neutral, like I needed to write something for just Earth Day and popped in, you know, what are 7 things to do for Earth Day, and it gave me this awesome outline and actually wrote some really cool stuff, and it was all normal, generic, you know, stuff that was good ideas, and that was impressive. You know, that was kind of scary. Great.
Yes, there are people using it for good things,
too.
lists, ideas, things like that, certainly. But there's the part that's sketchy is what worries me. You know, we don't know what's going to happen with all of that. And you know, there's writers that are very concerned. You know, are we going to be replaced by AI? Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about it, but there are people that are worried about it because I know a machine can't do what I do.
Well, it's really, the AI is really searching out over everything online and taking pieces of it. So they could take pieces of my stuff, of your stuff, or whatever.
But it's not right now. So what's happened is they cut it off at 2021. So anything that's happened before then is non-existent at this point. I don't know when they're going to feed more in there. I have no idea. Mm-hmm. You know, but it is fascinating, and I am curious.
And some of the artwork too, pulling together the art now is coming from actual artists. A lot of it can come from actual artists' stuff that's online, little pieces of it, and pull that in, and you know, that kind of thing. So there are concerns, and there's some cool stuff.
Oh, totally. I mean, just like anything new, you know. Everybody was freaked out when the web came out, so I think it will continue.
So a short story about degrees of separation. So Therese Skelly, your first there. So I knew Therese when we both lived in the Phoenix, Arizona area.
Oh, I love that. I just talked to her today.
And I went to her for intuitive work back in early 2000 years. And then I've seen, because she's been emailing, I'm on her list, of course, and I've seen the change, but it never hit me how it's changed until I heard you talk just now.
That is
that's-
so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to tell her you're here. She'll love that. Yeah. I told her today. I said, "Oh, I'm using you as an example, by the way." She's like, "Cool." It is a small world. It really is.
And her writing really has changed. The emails and how she presents herself and the pictures that she uses, just every aspect of it has changed through the years to where she's gentler.
Yeah. Well, the thing is it truly is a brainwashing process. If that's all that everybody's teaching, and we think that that's what we're supposed to do to help market and build our businesses, that's what we're going to try doing. I mean, I worked at an ad agency. Certainly, there was a lot of that going on. I was writing TV and radio ads, and I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. It does not excite me. It was really excellent experience. Now I can write awesome public service announcements for nonprofits and things like that, which makes me happy. But yeah, so it does change things a lot. Thank you for sharing. And what's your name? Janice.
Joy.
Joy.
I'm morphing into the joy part. So.
Okay, but she'll know you as Janice.
She'll know me as
Okay,
Joy.
cool.
Yeah.
That's what I needed to know. Excellent.
I have a question in regards to I've never loved the term elevator pitch.
Right.
I understand it and I adopt some of the concepts of it because it is important. But can I do I have permission to use your term, your value proposition?
Yeah, it's not mine. It's yeah, yes, of course. You may use it any way you want.
I do like I mean, that's just one example of like you were talking about. It's kinder. There's a flip. The terminology is presented in a different way, and I think that's a perfect example of what you were referring to. This instead of elevator pitch. I don't know. That just sounds.
Yeah, I don't like that term either. It doesn't really do much for me. And I think, who's really going to be stuck in an elevator for 30 seconds and have to tell someone really fast what they do urgently? I don't know. Not me. Not happening.
But I'm in that situation all the time where I'll ask somebody if I don't know anything about your industry.
Right.
And you try to tell me very quickly, well, I'm a blah, 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 blah. I usually have this deer in the headlights look like, I have no idea what that is or what you do. Like,
Exactly.
you need to figure out how to break that down in layman's terms so that anybody that you meet, you talk about it all day long. So you think that you're breaking it down, but
And they lead with their title and what they do, but not the results that they generate.
yeah, and so
And that's the missing link right there.
yeah.
Because if you don't know how they're going to help, you're like, okay, that's kind of interesting, but I don't even know what to do with that information. Nice to meet you, bye. But if they say something that's more interesting, then, it'll be, oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
And how many times, like, just even in this room, maybe, if the person that you're presenting to does get an understanding of what you do, they quite possibly know somebody who you need to meet. Oh, that's really interesting. My neighbor is da-da-da-da. I should introduce you to them. And so missed
Exactly.
opportunities, not having that really dialed in. So,
Yeah, I know, and it excites me so that people can do this with grace and ease. And it really is just small shifts. Small shifts have a really big impact, or can, So, anyone else want to weigh in? Any questions?
What do you think about, there's so many places now, there's social media, there's podcast sites, there's your website, how do you feel that, does it work all together? Or do you believe in focusing on one? It's such a Seems like it's been a big shift.
Great question, and there has been a big shift. Well, because of my advertising agency background, I kind of approach my marketing on more of a branding and positioning level, meaning I mostly market with evergreen content to where the message doesn't ever expire, right? And then I repeat that on multiple platforms. When I work with clients on content strategy plans for social media, there's no possible way that I can be on all platforms every day doing that. So I use technology that distributes my own content that I have written, not AI generated, and then I've got a library of thousands of posts that will post for me. So I'm building those relationships, but I'm not there, and it's automated. And so you want to look at whatever that mix is for you based on where your clients hang out. So my corporate clients hang out on LinkedIn more than they hang out on Facebook or Twitter or some of the new ones. I don't even know half of the new ones, honestly. I can't keep up with all of that. But it goes back to your strategy. Where are the people that you want to play with gathering? Where are they going to find you? And podcasts are a really great way to get the word out there. They work wonders. So, you have to, again, map out the plan, think about it, and then you have to test and track, is that working? Has there been a return on investment? It takes longer to tell if things are working when you're doing an evergreen approach, which is what I do. And I was sharing a story with Nikki about social media before we started filming and got started here, is that one of the posts that I will rotate back into rotation on social media is about how when you're multi-passionate and people tell you to only focus on one thing, that it's a big challenge, and that when you are the steward of a very important message, not just a steward, you have a big responsibility to get that out in the world. Well, it hit her at the exact right time. We've known each other for over 10 years. We haven't talked for 10 years, but she saw that post and it evoked that emotion in her in a positive way. And she said, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed her to hear. And I said, well, great, let's talk. I didn't know why she needed to hear it, but I was curious. We talked this morning. She has this cool new project that she's working on, and she wants to hire me to help with the messaging. So that's a message that I have repeated multiple times, but again, with the repetition now, people needing to see something multiple times, and then also as we grow and evolve, a message will resonate with us in a different way. She could have seen it a few years ago and just been like, because she wasn't ready, and she wasn't realizing that, oh my gosh, if I'm really going to be the steward of this, I've got to step it up and get that message out there. So plan, strategy, testing, seeing where people are, and really keeping it real. It's all about building relationships. That's what it all boils down to. Sales, marketing, advertising, copywriting, it's all about building relationships. And you can build relationships to create long-term sustainability, or you can build relationships with flash in the pan results, like the problem, agitate, and solve approach can still get you some results. You'll make some quick sales, but it will not probably work out in the wash when you've got return rates, chargebacks, dissatisfied customers.
And do you have all of your different websites linked to each other?
I only have 2 websites. So I have Right on Creative and I have Spiritual Sugar. And so yes, they are in the bio section linked to each other, but the content is very different.
But the quiz is?
The quiz is on Right on Creative or at themessengerquiz.com. I basically just bought a domain name, themessengerquiz.com, that points to a specific page on my website, but that's easier for people to remember. Yeah. Yeah, great question. There's a lot of layers, but again, that's why I say the messaging and strategy are super important. There are actually 4 components that I have people focus on. It's your message and strategy, your message and your copy, your plan and your strategy, your branding and your image, and your publicity and your PR. So starting with your core message is really important. Getting that strategy down, those revenue goals down so you can write into that strategy. Making sure that your brand and image is all on point and you're showing up consistently across platforms. Making sure that you're ready for publicity. And, having all of those really dialed in. It's a big thing. There's lots of moving parts, but I used to lead with press releases. And then I realized, but if people don't have their core message dialed in, they're going to need some help with their messaging before they're even remotely ready for a press release, because they've got to be prepared for media and all that stuff to come their way. So yeah, there's lots of different layers, but I kind of just let's start with the message. Let's get your message really dialed in. Let's get that value proposition so people understand that you are the choice, not an option. When you get so good at it, it's like, okay, cool, that's who I want to work with. That's it.
I have a question.
Sure.
How essential is it, do you think, these days to have social media as an integral part of your marketing and messaging? Because I'm very social media averse, and I'm going to be starting something soon that, you know, I'll have a website, I'll have a business card, I'll put up flyers, I'll do things here, you know, but I just have such a adverse reaction to social media.
So two things there. Find out where your ideal soulmate clients hang out and go with that. Also remember that you're not your ideal client. So even if you don't like something, that doesn't mean that they won't and that they don't use it. The other thing is some of the repurposing strategies that I use, if you front load your content and you get all of that dialed in and you have it rotating for you, you don't have to be there all the time. I show up and answer questions, and I still monitor all of that myself, but I had team members help me load all that content up into the program that I use so that I'm not spending a lot of time. Prior to there being platforms that would rotate your social media for you, I had a team member that was manually rotating it for me because I couldn't do it all. I mean, that's just it. You do want to get your message out there, but there's no possible way that you can do it all. But here's the other thing, too. Once you think about it, depending on what the business is that you're going to do, maybe they're not even hanging out there and you don't need to do it. You know? So if you really don't like it and the people that you're playing with don't like it, then draw them in from where they are. Put the flyers up. Do whatever it is that you want to do. It's not necessary. A lot of people think you need to be on all the platforms. I think that is complete overkill. It will water down your message, and if you're just throwing it up on different platforms and your people aren't even really there or paying attention, it's not a good use of time and resources. But social isn't going anywhere, I don't think. It's changing, and it's getting weirder, but I don't think it's going anywhere. Yeah. Any other questions? Thoughts? Well, thank you all for being here. I do have business cards up by the sign-up sheet for workshops. If you're interested in any future workshops, you can go ahead and put your email address down. I promise I won't add you to any lists unless you add yourself. You can go to themessengerquiz.com and do that, or write on Creative and find the link there and do that if you want. You can grab a card. You can put your name on the list if you want me to reach out about workshops that I'll be teaching. And thank you for being here, and thank you to the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library for hosting. They graciously accept donations, and they do all of this out of the kindness of their heart for our community. So thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
And thank you.